Today's lesson is called The Multi-Layered Matryoshka. Hello everyone, my name is Jeff.
I am Roger. Today we're going to be traveling to Russia. And if you travel to Russia, of course, you might want to try some vodka or other local specialties. But, of course, before you come back home, you might want to bring back some souvenirs. And a very popular souvenir from Russia is this multi-layered matryoshka. You know those dolls that open up and then there's one inside another and you keep going until you get about 6 or 7 of them.
There you go. These are also called Russian nesting dolls. Yeah, you open one up and one's inside, nested inside. And then you open that one up and there's another one inside until you get to that final doll that you can't open up. And by that time, that final doll is usually quite small, maybe the size of a pebble or something like that. But yes, those are very cool dolls. I love playing with them, or at least I love playing with them with my daughter. She's a big fan of this type of doll. Anyways, let's go ahead and take a short break, but when we come back, we'll be talking about multi-layered matryoshka.
The multi-layered matryoshka. She is dressed in traditional Russian peasant clothing, a headscarf and a sarafan, often decorated with brightly colored flowers. You twist her at the waist and she breaks apart, revealing a smaller figure within, and within that smaller figure, another, and another, and another. This charming wooden toy, known as a Russian nesting doll or matryoshka doll, is one of Russia's most recognizable symbols. But the practice of making these nesting dolls is not as long-standing as you might think. In fact, matryoshka dolls are only about 130 years old, emerging in Russia in the 1890s.
大家好，标题中我们看到单字 multi-layered 指多层的，字首 multi M-U-L-T-I multi 这个也可以念成 multi 表示多重的两个以上的。例如 Nowadays, social problems are very complicated and multi-layered. 现今的社会问题非常复杂，而且很多层面。再来，我们看到名词 headscarf 指头巾。例如 I bought a green silk headscarf for mom as her birthday gift. 我买了一条绿色丝绸头巾给妈妈当做她的生日礼物。接着，我们看到单字 recognizable 这个字是形容词，指可认出的、可辨认的。字尾 able 指能点点点的，易于点点点的。例如 John wears the same clothes every day, so he's always recognizable. John 每天都穿一样的衣服，所以很好认。或是 President Trump is probably the most recognizable American in the world. 川普总统大概是全世界辨识度最高的美国人。另外，在这个字的字首加上 un 就成了反义形容词 unrecognizable 指无法认出的。我们可以说 I met an old school friend last week and she had lost so much weight that she was almost unrecognizable. 我上周遇到学校的老朋友，她瘦了超多，几乎让人认不出来。再来，我们看到形容词 long-standing 指长期存在的，由来已久的。举例来说Air pollution is a long-standing problem in our city. 空气污染是我们城市长期存在的问题。
Okay, so let's imagine that you have a matryoshka in your possession. She is dressed in traditional Russian peasant clothing, a headscarf and a sarafan, often decorated with brightly colored flowers. So that's a description of the matryoshka. She is dressed in traditional Russian peasant clothing. That's the most common type of Russian nesting doll. It will be on the outside the image of a woman in traditional Russian clothing, especially peasant clothing, the kinds of clothing that peasants wear. This word peasant here is another word for farmer, but it's usually a word used to describe very poor farmers.
There you go. Even though this is peasant clothing, it doesn't mean it's drab clothing. These are brightly colored flowers or vibrantly colored flowers that these clothes here, this headscarf, I should say, is decorated with. Now, before we move on, we should also talk about this word multi-layered to be found in the title of our article. If something is multi-layered, it has many layers. So here we've got a Russian nesting doll. One doll inside of another, inside of another, inside of another. Yeah, each time you go inside, you reach another layer. So you can call this doll a multi-layered doll.
Now, you twist her at the waist. Of course, that's the middle part of her body there. You twist it one direction and the other on the bottom, for example, and she breaks apart, revealing a smaller figure within. Within here just means inside of something, within, and then within that smaller figure, another and another and another. Boy, that's a lot of fun, twisting them open to find the next surprise.
There you go, and they're really a delightful toy, these matryoshka. Anyways, yes, this charming wooden toy, known as a Russian nesting doll or matryoshka doll, is one of Russia's most recognizable symbols. But we've got a fun fact here coming up. Even though people associate this doll with Russia, and they assume that, yes, people have been making matryoshka for a really super long time, that's not necessarily true, but this is true. It is one of Russia's most recognizable symbols. When you see a matryoshka, when you see a Russian nesting doll, you think, yes, that is Russia. That's definitely a recognizable symbol.
It certainly is. So, of course, as you might expect, it's also a popular souvenir for travelers to Russia. But the practice of making these nesting dolls is not as long-standing as you might think. So here, long-standing just means something that has been around for a long time. You could also say long established. I guess maybe 200 years ago, they just didn't have these in Russia.
Russia is a lot older than these dolls are. Anyways, in fact, matryoshka dolls are only about 130 years old, emerging in Russia in the 1890s. Okay, so Russia's been around in one shape or form for a really long time. Hundreds, thousands of years, let's say. But the matryoshka, it's a relatively new Russian thing, even though nowadays people do associate that with Russia. Anyways, it says here that these dolls are only about 130 years old and that they didn't really arrive on the scene or emerge in Russia until about the 1890s.
Yep, so to emerge, to appear, especially if you're coming out of something that hit it before, like the top of Taipei 101 emerged from the clouds. So here these came out in Russia in the 1890s. In the 1880s, perhaps you just didn't see them anywhere, so you probably had to think of another souvenir to bring back to your kids from Russia. Okay, let's move on now to the second paragraph. We'll listen to it first and find out some more about matryoshka.
The first nesting doll was carved by a toy maker called Vasily Zvyozhdoshkin. However, he didn't base his design on a Russian tradition at all. Some accounts say his concept was actually inspired by a Japanese doll that his boss's wife had acquired on her travels.
第二部分我们看到单字 carve 这个字是动词，指雕刻。例如 Emma carved a statue from a block of wood. Emma 将一块木头雕刻成一座雕像。或是 We watched as the woman carved a face into the piece of wood. 我们看着这位女士在一块木头上刻出一张脸。另外补充一个相关片语 carve out 表示努力开创，像是 Tiffany had carved out a unique role for herself at the company. Tiffany 努力为自己在公司挣了一个独一无二的位置。
Okay, the name of our article is the multi-layered matryoshka. And yes, if you don't want to say matryoshka, you can just say Russian nesting doll. Yes, the Russian nesting doll. Yeah, when people see it, they think, yep, that is Russia. That is definitely Russian. But we learned right before the break that even though people do associate or connect Russia to these dolls, they think Russia when they see these dolls, Matryoshka only emerged pretty recently, okay? Relative to the history of Russia and how long history it has, Matryoshka have only been around about 130 years old. There you go. There's a fun fact for you. Now, let's learn about the first nesting doll, the very first Russian nesting doll. Yeah, the first nesting doll was carved by a toy maker called Vasily Zivyoshdoshkin. Ooh, I hope I said that right.
Wow, that sounds like a really hard word to pronounce, especially for Taiwanese, because you guys always have trouble with the Z sound and the V sound. Zivyoshdoshkin.
Zivyoshdoshkin. Vasily Zivyoshdoshkin. I think when I do fake Russian accent, it sounds better.
Oh, you can do any accent under the sun. You are so clever.
Vasily Zivyoshdoshkin. I think that's okay.
That's okay. You've been watching a lot of YouTube videos. They teach those accents pretty easily. But in any case here, that's the name of the carver here. You don't have to remember this name. We're not studying Russian today, but it was carved by a toy maker a long time ago. However, he didn't base his design on a Russian tradition at all. So you might think, hey, these dolls should be kind of traditional. That's why we buy them. It's kind of a traditional toy or a traditional sculpture or something to buy when you travel to Russia. But no, his design was not based on anything traditionally Russian at all. Some accounts say his concept was actually inspired by a Japanese doll that his boss's wife had acquired on her travels. Hey, that sounds kind of familiar. My daughter took a trip to Japan recently and brought back a souvenir, some finely carved Japanese doll that, yeah, did sort of look like one of these Russian nesting dolls. So maybe that's where they got the idea. The Russians stole the idea from the Japanese.
So the Matryoshka might actually be Japanese, or at least we can say that it was inspired by a Japanese doll.
Yes, that's an important difference here. They didn't just steal the idea, but they kind of were inspired by those Japanese dolls. Yes, they're kind of cool. They're Japanese traditional dolls, but hey, we can sort of get an idea from that to make our own dolls. So here, of course, this is a concept, your idea about something, and then to be inspired by something means you basically start to think about something because you saw something. So maybe you traveled to Spain or something and you were inspired to become a chef after you had some great food there.
Yep, and there's one more vocabulary word in this final sentence here of this part of our lesson. We've got the verb acquire, okay? It says here that this person acquired this Japanese doll on her travels. If you acquire something, by the way, you get that thing, you obtain that thing, you buy that thing, and now it's yours. You don't necessarily have to buy that thing. You just have to get it in some way to acquire that thing.
Right, to become the owner of something. It also means that you get the skills for something, or you develop a skill or some kind of ability. I acquired the skills to play the guitar when I studied in Mexico, for example. Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson. Let's move on now and talk some more about Russian nesting dolls.
It was Sergei Malyutin, the artist who painted the dolls, who gave them their distinctive Russian look. He painted the largest doll to look like a Russian peasant woman, and the 7 figures inside her like members of her family, 5 little girls, a little boy, and a baby. The makers called the toy Matryoshka, meaning little mother.
最后第三部分我们看到单字 distinctive 这个字是形容词，指独特的，有特色的。例如 The fruit has a distinctive flavor 这种水果有个独特的香气，或是 This bakery is known for its distinctive decorations and architecture 这间面包店以其与众不同的装潢和建筑而闻名。另外补充一个相关名词 distinction D-I-S-T-I-N-C-T-I-O-N distinction 指区别、差别、特质或特别之处，像是 When one of the twins dyed her hair, the distinction between them became obvious 当双胞胎其中一人染发后，他们之间的差别就变得很明显。或是 Mark has the distinction of being the youngest person to ever win the competition Mark 的特别之处是这场比赛史上最年轻的赢家。
When you see a matryoshka, you think, you know what? That's Russia. Russian to the core. But we just found out before the break there that maybe matryoshka, okay, they owe a whole lot to Japanese culture. Yes, some people think that the original matryoshka was actually fashioned after a Japanese doll or was inspired by a Japanese doll. So Russian? Maybe not 100%, okay, but it sure does look Russian. And next we're going to learn about the person who made the matryoshka look very Russian, okay? We're going to learn about the person who gave the matryoshka their distinctive Russian look. Yes, it was Sergei Malyutin, the artist who painted the dolls, who gave them their distinctive Russian look.
Absolutely. So they have that distinctive Russian look. Of course, if you look at those dolls, you think, yes, Russia. So that's distinctive, which means very, very specific. When you look at those dolls, you think of Russia. Like, for example, I've tried many different kinds of whiskey before, but hey, the Kavalan whiskey here in Taiwan has a distinctive taste. When I taste that, I know it's something special. It's very unique. Okay, so again, these dolls have a distinctive Russian look. You're not going to mistake them for Japanese dolls.
Anyways, more on this painter, this artist who painted the dolls and gave them this look. He painted the largest doll to look like a Russian peasant woman, and the 7 figures inside her like members of her family. How about that? So there you go. You have the matriarch, let's say, or the matron of this peasant family. And then as you go inside the doll and you get the smaller and smaller dolls, you get members of the family, like children and stuff like that. So yes, the 7 figures inside her, okay, those are going to be 5 little girls, a little boy, and a baby.
That sounds like a lot of families I've met here in Taiwan. There are lots of girls in the family, but the youngest is a boy for some reason. And in this particular case, they've got a baby as well. Gee, I wonder where the father is in these dolls. But, I guess they recognize the contribution of the woman on the farm. So, of course, she gets to be the biggest figure. And then you've got all her kids inside, including the newest one, the little baby. And the makers called the toy Matryoshka, which means little mother in Russian. Okay, so there you go. I wonder what little father means in Russian, but you're going to have to ask your Russian teacher for that. And that's what the makers called this toy. And the rest is history. Now the world recognizes Russia by these dolls.
Yes, when people see the doll, they think Russia. So, like Roger said before, if you go to Russia, maybe have some vodka. Russia's known for that. Also, have some caviar. Russia's also known for caviar, but also make sure that you stop by an arts and crafts store and buy yourself a genuine matryoshka. Because even though these dolls aren't that old, and even though they're inspired by a Japanese doll, these are distinctly Russian dolls. They are unmistakably Russian. All right, folks, with that, it is time for us to take a break, but don't go away. The Chinese teacher is on her way.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第2部分提到说，第一个俄罗斯娃娃是由一位玩具工匠雕刻而成的。那根据一些说法指出，它的概念是受到一个日本娃娃所启发。好，这边用到单字 inspire， 我们就来学习它的字首字根。SPIR 这个字根呢，表示呼吸。那么带有这个字根的 spirit SPIRIT， 它在拉丁文里面就有这种灵魂啊、勇气或是活力、气息的意思。好，我们从这边来想，在 inspire 这个字当中，它的字首 IN 表示向内往内，那么 spire 表示呼吸。当我们在某个人的心里面去注入那个活力呀、注入勇气，也许你就可以想到这个 inspire 它有鼓励、鼓舞的意思。那这个动词呢，它也可以指启发或是赋予灵感。我们就顺便补充几个相同字根的单字。第一个是 expire EXPIRE， 它是由字首 EX 加上字根 SPIRE 而来的。那因为 X 和 s 产生了同化现象，所以我们就看到spire 的部分它少了 s。 好，那我们来看一下这个字首的 ex 表示向外，字根 spire 表示呼吸。好，那合在一起 expire 它就有呼气吐气的意思。可是其实这个字呢，原本它还有这种断气死亡的意思。好，那我们就可以从生命的结束来联想到 expire 它有到期期满的意思。好，第二个要补充的是 perspire， P-E-R-S-P-I-R-E， 它的字首 P-E-R 表示遍及， spire 表示呼吸。好，我们流汗的时候呢，是会散热，把身体这个热气排出去，感觉就好像遍及全身的毛细孔都在呼吸，都在排气。好，从这边也许你就可以联想到 perspire 它有流汗出汗的意思了。好，第三个要补充的是 respire， R-E-S-P-I-R-E， 它的字首 R-E 表示 again 再次， spire 表示呼吸，那么合在一起 respire 它就表示呼吸。那我们来学一下，它有一个形容词是 respiratory， R-E-S-P-I-R-A-T-O-R-Y， respiratory 就是指跟呼吸道相关的，你可能会看到 respiratory infection 就是用来指呼吸道感染哦。好，再补充第四个是 conspire， C-O-N-S-P-I-R-E， 它的字首 C-O-N 表示一起，那么 spire 表示呼吸。从这个字首字根的表面意思来看，一起呼吸。同学们可以想想看，中文有一个成语叫做沆瀣一气，从这边来联想，当两个人臭味相投，同一个鼻孔出气，也许你就可以想到 conspire 它有同谋密谋的意思了。好，那么第五个要补充的是 aspire， A-S-P-I-R-E， 它的字首 A 表示 A-D， 表示朝向，那么 spire 表示呼吸，朝着什么什么呼吸，这是什么意思啊？好，可以想一下，在电影里面有时候会看到这种画面，当巨大的野兽呢，或者是像那种巨龙喷火龙准备要吃掉主角的时候，镜头就会特写到那个野兽巨大的头，然后慢慢靠近主角，靠近他，然后对着他呼吸，然后可能还会流口水之类的，感觉下一秒就要把主角吃掉了。好，从这样的画面朝着他呼吸，我们可以联想到 aspire 它可能会有渴望向往的意思，你就想说他很想吃它嘛，是有渴望的意思。好，以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天的单字吧。
Peasant. In the Middle Ages, European peasants farmed land that was owned by lords. Emerge. Rock and roll emerged in the United States during the 1940s and early 1950s, and then spread around the world. Carve. This little wooden figure is so special to me because my father carved it. Concept. How do you think our ancestors first came up with the concept of cooking food? Inspire. Mindy's favorite childhood movie inspired some aspects of her latest novel. Acquire. Jason often acquires new pieces of art when he travels to other countries. Distinctive. Piper has a very distinctive style of dressing, so she always stands out in a crowd.
Okay, everyone. With that, today's article is now complete. But, as always, we sure hope that you guys have enjoyed reading along with us. Anyways, I'm Jeff.
I am Roger.
See you next time.